Hello, welcome to the online demonstration of the phase seed selection tool. The phase project, or the Pollinator Habitat Aligned with Solar Energy project, is developing research and a suite of tools to aid utility scale solar in considering pollinator vegetation on those sites. The seed selection tool itself is used to inform seed mix selection. If you're developing mixes with vendors, it can help identify suitable species. It can also aid in review of seed mixes that are provided either through vendors or contractors for sites. It can also assist in identifying substitutions or perhaps other suitable species that might already be occurring on sites. The audience for this tool is anyone involved with vegetation planning and decision making around solar site vegetation. The outputs, as you'll see, developed by this tool or provided by this tool are based on the user-determined inputs that are put into the tool. You can use then those tools to either refine your results and then apply those to your projects. Of course, keep in mind that this is just a model and a decision support tool, so real-world conditions may be more complex or require additional considerations beyond what this tool is able to consider. The outputs that are provided by this tool include a CSV table that can be used in Excel to generate a list of species that were queried from the tool. There's a accompanying PDF summary that describes the queried features used to develop that list. And last but not least, there's a link to the Rights of Ways Habitat Working Group seed vendor map. So this tool can then help connect you to vendors that can help supply those needs on your projects. Of course, none of this work would have been possible without the support of both the funding of the U.S. Department of Energy, that is providing ultimate funding for the development of this tool, as well as other information sources that were used to develop the database that is supporting this tool in the background. That comes from a combination of sources from the USDA plants database, the U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration Ecoregional Vegetation Assessment database. Stantec and their native plant nursery has worked closely with other native plant vendors across the U.S. to inform commercial seed availability. And then also, of course, the multiple partners and organizations and industry members that have helped review drafts of this tool and weigh into what aspects of it are important. You can access the full list of acknowledgements here on the phase website. Okay, so let's dig into the tool. The tool can be accessed via the phase tools website. If you go to phase.erc.uic.edu, you will be brought to the phase project page. If you click on tools, you will see links to the 4 tools developed as part of the phase project. We'll access the solar seed selection tool, which will bring us to this landing page here. It'll also prompt you with a disclaimer about using the tool as you first encounter this page. This tool has a layout where it has a sequence of 5 different steps that you'll be going through. First is providing some initial inputs as to the project site and the intended use of the mix that you're generating. Then we'll look at ecoregions where the site is located, the addition of other planting zone filters, further refinements, and then last we'll get our results. So I'll show you how we can go through this quickly on a site. You can enter your project name. This is really just user-defined, any appropriate site names that you want to use for your internal reference. You then pick an overarching site location just based on state. Say this site is located in Ohio. We also then can pick which zone of the project we want to pick a mix for. In this case, we'll use a buffering land. So we're going to be looking at a planting that's going to be occurring outside of the arrays. So we can maybe go with some larger, taller vegetation here. One thing you'll notice as I'm arrowing over is that each of these red question marks is what we call a tooltip. That gives you some of the underlying definitions and also what's being queried within the tool to help guide you as you walk through this. So make sure you check those out, especially if it's your first time using the tool. It can be really helpful to help give you some context as to some of the queries. Okay, here I'm going to select both native and non-native vegetation. We're really interested in a mix of either here. We can select our maximum height vegetation that we want. Let's say we want 6 feet since we're in the buffer areas again. If I'm concerned about commercial availability, I can select that here. Let's say I'll look for the first of the 4. You can see again, that is based off of this query of vendors from across the country and looking at the rate of availability that we commonly see these species occurring within different regional sources. Okay, so once I've selected that, I can move on and click Next. This will automatically launch this ecoregion page. You can see it zooms into the state that I had selected for my site location. If you zoom out, you can see the ecoregions across the country that are noted. So you could use this to query a larger geographic area if you'd like. Let's say I want to query the area where my project is located. You'll see it highlight the ecoregion that is located within. You can also select it from the drop-down list here. Of course, as you select sites on the map, you'll see them selected in the checklist here as well. And also the opposite works. If we want to unselect a site, we can check it there. Okay, so then with that selected, we'll move on to our next page, which is where we get into some of the planting zone conditions that we want to filter for. So again, you can look at the tooltips here. This can be helpful to identify some of the components that you can query for. It's important to remember with this tool that each time you check a box or you invite another query option, it further constrains the list, and you'll see how that results on the last page. So if I want to look at this, we can look at my site conditions, and I can start selecting different conditions I want to include. You'll notice each of these includes an option for undefined. Those are null values or blank values within the database itself that we're using. To just show you an example of what that means, when we include the overall list of species in the database behind this tool, we have just over 8,400 species included. And you can see we have complete information available in the database for certain aspects of that. As we go further on, though, there are other aspects of queries in this tool that have a lot of blank or missing information. It's just not available in the database for us to query, even despite all those different sources that have been included to incorporate this. And so what you have in the case of, say, like soil moisture, where we have maybe half of all the species have information about soil moisture, the remainder are essentially blanks. They're null values in the database. And so if we want to include those blank values in our query, we want to select undefined in our query. If we want to exclude those and really keep it to just those that we have information for, then we can just select the ones that we have here. So in this case, I'm going to select the undefined as well, so I include those null values. If you know your site's pH, you can use this slider to select the pH range that you might see on the site, and then have it further find species within that selected pH range. Of course, you can, again, click on as many or as few of these as you wish. Once you have what you would like to include here selected, we can move on to the next tab. This is where we have some other refinements. So if we're looking for specific pollinator benefits from the vegetation we select, we can select those options there. You'll also receive that as part of the outputs of this, so you don't necessarily need to query by that to have that information available. Next, I will select the type of vegetation I want to select for. So you could select trees and shrubs, say if you wanted to consider a taller growing screening perimeter. In this case, I'm just interested in the herbaceous vegetation or the grasses and wildflowers. You can select for grazing toxicity. If it's noted as having any type of grazing effect, it's marked as a yes. If it does not have any information available about grazing effects, it's marked as undefined. We're going to leave that unselected for now. Of course, you can select by relative price if you wish to do that as well. For now, I'm going to leave this just selected with the growth form. So I go to next. This brings me to my results page. So what you can see, this brings over the information about the project that we entered on our first step on our initial inputs. This selected inputs summarizes all of the inputs that we included within our query, and it shows the resulting count. So as it whittles down the overall database by each of those categories, this allows you to see which factors you're selecting are resulting in the greatest constraints on the list that's generated. Then we go down to the seed results, and we can see the list of species that resulted from that query. And you can see in this case, we have a total of 73 species included in our list. That might be a bit more, so I can show you how we can refine that further if we like. Of course, one nice thing about this list is when you have this list, if you click on individual results, it will pull up additional information from the plants database that can give you some additional details on individual species. You'll also get some of this information as part of your output that you generate from this, but it is a nice quick reference if you're interested in knowing something about a particular species. So of course you can leaf through this. You can go to any particular page if you want to look at what's included in that initial output. Of course, if you're happy with that list, you can go through and download the results. I want to go back though, and let's say make some refinements. So I can use the back button, and I can, let's say, select, okay, well, I want to maybe specify my soil moisture conditions a little bit more. And maybe in this case, I don't want to select the undefined, because I really want to constrain it by those that are listed as dry or moist. So I can go back and click through. This will run the query again. And you can see it's whittled that down now from 73 to 57 species. If I want to go back and let's say I want to exclude some of those undefined values, I can do that and then run it once again. And you can see I've got a list now down to 13 species. So let's say for my purposes, I want to move forward with this list, share this with a seed vendor or my contractor, and use this to help inform the species selection on the site. I can do one of two things. I can first download the results. So if you click on the download, it will prompt you for a download, and it will ask you if you want to allow that. So make sure the pop-ups are allowed, and it allows you to download those results. Once I receive those results, you'll see those provided in two different formats. First, we have the CSV output. So again, you get this table that is provided. You can open up in Excel, which gives you all the detailed information available on that particular species, including, again, some other information such as benefits to pollinators, salt tolerance, those other factors that you may or may not have queried for, but it'll provide that summary for you. The other information that's provided is the seed tool output. So this includes a citation of the tool itself, where the information was generated from. It'll summarize some of the information that's on the results page, including the project information, the selected inputs used to query. This can be very useful information if you're sharing the list with seed vendors to help them understand what your constraints are for that site. And then, of course, a disclaimer on its use. So we encourage you, if you are sharing this output with others for use, include that summary along with it. Again, having this information can be really, really useful. From there, you can then also link to the Rights of Way as Habitat Working Group's interactive seed map. So this is a tool that's available via the Rights of Way as Habitat Working Group website, where it provides different information on seed vendors available throughout the country that could be useful to you as you are exploring your projects. And so depending on where you're at, the vendors, the suppliers can provide the material that you need where you need it. All right, well, with that, welcome your testing and your feedback on this tool. Like many tools, we'll continue to refine and update it as time goes on, and welcome your input as we do that. Thank you for your time, for your attention, and good luck out there.